Hi, it's Hopki and welcome to this screencast looking at Pano2VR's new Panotour Pro project file import. Now before I start, I just want to say a big thank you to Catherine Goodin who allowed us to use her Panotour Pro project file for this video. Right, okay, so start then. What we want to do is just show you what Catherine had before. This is the tour that she made with Panotour. It's got the drop-down menus, it's got a linkable logo that goes back to the Realtor's website, it's got some thumbnails, some button zoom and full screen, and it has an interactive floor plan. So this is all the information that's into the project file. So let's see how it translates into Pano2VR. So I'm going to open up Pano2VR. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to close the welcome screen and then I'm going to go File, Import Panotour Project, select the KPT file and click Open. Alright, now instantly you can see that the project file is starting to load all the data. Now before I go any further, what I'm going to do is click File and Save, and what this will do is now save the Pano2VR file in the Panotour Projects folder. Okay, so let's just open Pano2VR up again, and as said, we've loaded all the images. We've also loaded all of the names for the images, and not only that, Catherine's project had a floor plan. If we select our map, our tour map, you'll see that we've also brought the floor plan in. I'm just going to undock that from the side and show the properties panel. There we go. And I'm just going to click the button here to fill the window. Right, so here's the floor plan. The reason why I wanted to undock it so you can clearly see the properties panel is that when we change something, you'll see that the properties panel reacts. So if I click on the floor plan, the properties panel changes to the floor plan. You'll see that it's got the ID floor plan 1. I could change that if I wanted to. You'll also see that the file type of the image, now it's actually a PNG with transparency, so I'm just going to select that and that will show us the transparency later in the output. Okay, cool. Right, I'm just going to close that. So my next job then is to add an HTML5 output, and what I want to do is just publish this out so we can see what we've got as a bare minimum when we open up the project file. So this is what we get. It's just the nodes all exported. We've got a little red, our default red dot hotspot, and we can click around the nodes. That's pretty much it. What we've got to do to add the functionality is add a skin. So what we're going to do then is open up the skin editor, and I'm just going to use components from our component toolbox. Now of course if you've got graphics you can bring them in and use those, but I'm just going to use our components toolbox, and I just want to reproduce the functionality. So with that said, the first thing was a drop down menu, so I'm going to double click and add that to the skin. There it is. What I'm going to do is close this and save, and I'm going to initially save the skin to the project file. So let's go to the desktop, there's the project folder, and save it. So let's just call it skin, and that's that. So now what I'm going to do is click the publish button, and what we should see is there is the output, and here is our drop down menu. You can see it's got all the names. I've not had to do anything else. Pano2VR imported all the names. When I click on various locations you can see that we've even got a visited checkbox as well. Okay, so that was that. The other thing that Catherine's project had was a logo from the Realtor's website that that when you clicked it went to the Realtor's website. So let's do that then. Let's go into the project folder and find the logo. Here it is. I'm just going to drag it into the skin editor, and if I hold down the shift key and drag the corner I can resize it. Now what I want to do is pin this to the bottom left hand side, so I'm going to anchor it, and then you can see that the directions now, so I'm going to bring it in from 10 pixels from the left, and I'm going to bring it up 10 pixels from the bottom. Sorry, 10. Here we go, 10. Right, so that's that. What I also want to do is give it a hand cursor when we hover over it, and it needs to have an action to take you back to the Realtor's website, and that action will be mouse click, go to a URL. I'm just going to paste in the Realtor's website, and the target window. Now I'm going to choose blank on the understanding that blank will either open up a new window or a new tab. So the idea is if you're halfway through the tour, decide to click this link, it opens up a new window or tab. You can then close that and go back to the tour where you left off, rather than if it was set to underscore underscore self, what would happen is it would replace the tour with the Realtor's website, so when you come back you're back at square one and got to start again. So that's just a little tip there. Okay, so that's that. What I'm going to do now is introduce some keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to use Command S to save the skin on the Mac. You can use Control S on the PC, and I can also generate the output from here as well. So on the Mac it's Option Command G, on the PC it's Control Alt G. So let's just do that. Do I want to overwrite? Yes. And here we go. You can see that the browser's opened up underneath the skin, and here is our drop down menu and also the Realtor's link. If I click that, it will take us to the Realtor's website. If I close the tab, it brings us back to exactly where I was. Alright, so that's that finished. Right, okay, the other thing Catherine had was a thumbnail menu. Now again, we've got one of those in the components toolbox. So we cursor down, thumbnail, double click, and add that to the project. You can see that ours has got a open and close button at the bottom. You can obviously drag and move all this around and pin it and anchor it to wherever you want. I'm going to leave everything pretty much as standard, just to reproduce the functionality. Obviously you can tidy up things in your own time. Okay, so with that said, save and generate the output. Let's see the thumbnail menu in operation. Right, here it is. We can scroll it, you can move it with your mouse, you can hide and show it. Each component reacts to nodes within the tour, and what I mean by that is if I use the drop down menu and select the last node, you'll see that the thumbnail menu will react to it, and vice versa. If I move the thumbnail menu, say, to the foyer in the building, the drop down menu will react to that, showing us our visited checkboxes as well. Okay, cool. Need to add some more buttons. Catherine's project had full screen, so it's double click and add a full screen. There it is. It's actually overlaid itself on the thumbnail button, so all I need to do is just select that in the tree and I can move it over. I'm going to move it over by 32 pixels. We do actually have features in the skin where we can select a load of elements and distribute them, align them, center them, etc. If you want to know how to do that, then obviously head over to the documentation, but I'm just going to manually do it for the second. So that's my full screen button. I'm going to select, and let's have zoom buttons. Let's double click, add some zoom. Again, select it in the tree, drag it over next to what we've already got. Just got to make sure that they're 23 pixels up from the bottom so it matches all the other buttons, which this one is, so that's cool. And I think I'll add some next and previous buttons because Catherine also had those. Again, select it in the tree, grab them, drag it over, making sure that they're 23 pixels up from the bottom. There we go. So right, let's just save and generate this output to see how far we've got. And here we go. We can hide and show the thumbnail menu. We've got the zooms. We've got the next panorama, previous panorama, and obviously the full screen button. Okay, cool. Right, the other thing that Catherine had was a point hotspot. Now this brings us on to cover something else, and that is, here is the point hotspots. We have 2 in the simplex and 2 in the silhouette button scheme. So here we've got a point hotspot that shows a preview. Here we've got a point hotspot with the 3D arrows in the preview. But when we imported the Panotour project, we also import not only node hotspots but image hotspots and video hotspots. If you have those in your project, you'll need to add the relevant component to display it. So here we've got an image hotspot, and here we have 4 different types of video hotspots. So we've got YouTube and Vimeo. We've also got hotspots, video hotspots if you've got a MPEG-4 on a server somewhere, so use the URL one, or if you've got an MPEG-4 that's local to the project, use the file one. Okay, so I'm going to select my point hotspot, double click, add it to the project, close, again save, generate the output, see what it looks like. Here it is. These are the hotspots. We can click them, run through, and what we've also got, same as the others, is that we've also got the little check mark in the top right hand corner. So again, that shows you that you've visited the node. Okay, alright, so we want to do one other thing now then, and that's add the map, the floor plan. Now before I do that, what I'm going to do is tidy up the skin. I'm starting to add lots of elements to this, so before I can start adding some more, I'm going to start hiding things. We can do that in the tree by just clicking the eyeball. If I want to lock something in the skin, I can right button click and let's hang on, select that. So right button click and lock in canvas. There we go. So I could do that, but I actually just want to hide everything, and that then allows me to click on the map element, bring that into the skin editor. I want the map to be anchored top right, so I'm going to click the anchoring, and I also know that the map is actually 599 pixels by 282 pixels. Alright, now I said I want it in the top right, so you can see that the icons change relative to the anchoring point, so I'm going to bring it out 10 pixels from the right and bring it down 10 pixels from the top. Okay, now as a default, the maps will use the ID map 1. If I had another one, map 2, I don't need that because it's just going to be the one map, so I'm just going to call it map. And the other thing is that the map defaults to being a map and showing one of 4 different Google Maps. Now we want to show the floor plan, so if I select floor plan, you'll see that now it's picked up the ID from the floor plan, from Catherine's floor plan, which is floor plan 1, and we're going to add radar beams and everything else. I don't want to do that just yet, so I'm going to deselect that. Okay, so if we just save and publish this just to see what we've got, you'll see that there is the floor plan. I've got this black border still going around it. I didn't actually remove that, and we've got the default map pins. Okay, they are interactive, but they're the default map pins. You can see them going off the top, so it looks a bit ugly. Now, Catherine's map had these little red dots, so before I go any further, I'm just going to select the map, and we're going to get rid of that border. So border width, I'm going to set that back to 0. And then to replicate Catherine's red dots, I'm going to grab the rectangle tool, add it to the skin. I'm just going to change its ID to map pin, so I can find it later. I'm going to change its size to 15 by 15 pixels. Let's have a look. I'm going to change its color to red because Catherine had red dots, and I'm going to get rid of the border. I don't really want a border with this, and I want to make it a circle, so I'm going to change the radius to 999 pixels from the center, which will then make it a circle. There we go. Now it's just an element. What I need to do before it will do anything is give it some actions. So I'm going to double click and give it the action mouse click. Open next panorama. We're going to be using the hotspot URL, and I'm going to open each node in its default view. Here we go. So now that I've created the map pin, what I need to do now is tell the map to use it. So I'm going to select the map again, cursor down, and you'll see clone as marker. And I just need to, in the drop down menu, find our map pin. Here we go. So there it is. Select that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is save, generate the output, and see how far we've got. Okay, so there it is. We've got the map, and when we hover over, we can change things. What I missed out was the interactivity. I want the mouse to change to the hand cursor when I go over it. Also, what I want to do is let the viewer know which node we're in. At the moment they're all red dots. I'm going to change colors to make it more interactive. So with that said, what I'm going to do is select the map pin, and we're going to change, or we're going to set the hand cursor, as I say, to show people it's interactive. But what I'm going to do is change its color to green. Alright, and then I'm going to use our logic block that I'm going to say when the node, the state of the node is active, so when that's true, change the color to red. Okay, so let's just save and have a look and see what those changes have made. Okay, so there's the map. We've now got all green map dots or map pins. When I go to the foyer, we see it's now turning red, and we've now got the hand cursor to give us some interaction. Okay, I could always add some more interaction with this. As an example, with our logic blocks, we've got scaling. What I could say is, with the mouse is over is true, scale it up to 1.5%. Let's do that one, 1.5%. And rather than just going from one size to another, I can give it a transition. So let's do it over half a second. Click OK, and let's see what that does. So let's generate the output. Have a look, and now when we hover over, you see that the dots get bigger as we go over them. Alright, so that's pretty much the project how Catherine had it. And what I want to do now is just add some extra features. Okay, so one of the first features I want to add is a radar beam in the floor plan, so we know and the viewer knows which direction they're looking in. Now, what we've actually discovered is when we imported the data from the Panotour project file, it didn't have any heading data. All of the nodes seem to be set at 0 pan angle as being the north, so there's no actual if you like, compass settings or angle data in the project file. So what we can do is use Pano2VR to add this. So if I open up, or if we close this and go back to the project file, and what I'm going to do is open the tour map, and I'm going to dock that into the side. There we go, and I'm going to click resize button, so it's resized. I'm going to go back to the first node in the floor plan, so that'd be the foyer, and what I'm going to do is rotate round to a known view. Now I've got my grid turned on. Here we go. So I'm going to set the grid there. So I've got the grid set, so I'm lining up the panorama so it's straight with the grid. You can see that the radar beam is pointing to pan angle 0, but what I can do is hold down the N key and then rotate the compass until it's pointing the right direction. Here we go. So that one's now fixed. I'm gonna use the keyboard on the Mac Option or on the PC Alt and click the hotspot, and that takes me to the next node. I'm going to do exactly the same thing again, but what I'm going to do this time is use the grid to line up with the top of the ceiling. So I'm looking straight, use the N key and rotate until I'm looking in the right direction, so I'm looking back down. You'll see that these lines are starting to straighten up, okay, indicating that they are actually following the correct paths. Okay, if I hold down the Alt key again and change nodes by clicking the hotspot, I'm going to do the same thing. I can still use the ceiling line. That's quite a good reference. I could have used the back of the sofa. And again, hold down the N key and rotate the compass until I'm looking in the same direction as the panorama. Okay, right, yeah, that seems to be quite cool. I've noticed that the map pins are slightly different from the hotspots. We could click and straighten those up. I can just move that over slightly. Yeah, we could tidy that up as well. I'm not going to bother. But yeah, so that's just giving those 3 panoramas heading data. So if we go back to the skin, I'm going to select the map element again, and this time round I'm going to turn on the radar beam. Here we go. So let's just save and generate the output and see what we've got. So if we go back to the first node inside, when I turn to the back wall, you'll see that the beam is now facing the back wall. If I go to the second node and do the same, you'll see it's heading to the back wall. Now what you may have noticed is that the beam is actually coming from the top left hand side of the map pin. Now the reason for that is if you're using any element as a map pin, so be it a rectangle or your own graphic, when you select it, the anchor point becomes the anchor of the beam. So if I had the standard teardrop, I would probably want to anchor it bottom middle, so the beam comes from the bottom of the teardrop. As this is a circle, I'm going to anchor it from the center. Okay, so if I do that and then just publish this out just to make sure that that is working how I want it, there it is. Okay, cool. Now the other thing is that beam is massive, looks a bit ugly. So again, I can select the map element, go down and go to the size. Its size is 250. I'm going to change that to say 65, make it a lot smaller. And again, just going to save, generate the output and see what it looks like. So here we go. And there we go. We've got some nice little neat radar beams. Okay, one of the other things that the project is doing is opening up the panoramas, looking at various parts of the room. Now this is what obviously the realtor wanted, but for me what I'd like to do, and I want to show you how to do this, is that when I click a hotspot to still be facing the direction that we're going. Alright, so to do that in Pano2VR, it's quite simple. Just close the skin. I'm going to select the first node inside the floor plan, and how we're going to do this is a couple more keyboard shortcuts. On the Mac, if I hold down the command key and click the hotspot, or on the PC control and click the hotspot, that opens up our target viewing window. All I have to do now is just whiz it around to the view I want when I arrive at that hotspot. Click OK. I can hold down the Alt or Option key, and there we go. I'll do exactly the same thing for the next node. Set the view I want when I get there. There we go. Let's do that. Click OK and go. Here we go. So what I want to do is just generate this to see what it looks like. Go to that node. So now when I click the hotspots, I'm going to follow them. Here we go. You see we're now pointing in that right direction. Okay, so that's basically importing a Panotour Pro project and replicating what we had before, and obviously giving it a few more extra features. Before I go, what I want to do is just quickly show you what Catherine has actually done with her tour. So if we go to the Realtor's website now, and this is the tour, what I'm going to do is hit the refresh button. And you can see that it starts off now with a nice little welcome screen with some instructions. When you click that, the side panel opens up. Again, this was a component that Catherine's customized, so you can hide and close all the options. You've got the linked icon, the logo, you've got the various buttons, Facebook and Twitter, and the floor plan. Catherine's made the floor plan a bit bigger and also included the outer panoramas, which is a nice touch. There you go, that's how to import a Panotour project into Pano2VR, and as always, thanks for watching.